send a notice out to everyone.
Yep,
So
and it just popped up on my screen here.
Yeah, we'll just give them a few minutes to join up. So it should be fun. It should be fun.
Oh, great. Are you there?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, so I accidentally hit the YouTube start video.
As soon as we started it, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I think I lost you. Oh, jeez. After I just got done telling you what a great job you did.
Forecast for thunderstorms, so there should be no power outage.
Well, we just had some really bad ones here, but it was from like 5:30 to 6:30. So I just went out a little bit ago, and everything was nice. So
yeah, we're getting our one of our usual 90-degree, 60% humidity weeks coming up, as you probably remember from living in Columbus.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You'll get some of that weather up there a couple days.
Oh, another thing, if you want to bring up, I don't know how much you want to bring up on it. Hockey fandom for me.
Hockey, oh right. You are a big hockey guy. I saw you wear your Blue Jackets jersey the one day.
Right.
I don't see many of those. I tell you that. I should go get mine on. Maybe I should. Hang on a minute. I'm going to go. Hey, I'll be back.
All right. Oh, you got the one with the B on it. Wow.
Are you jealous now?
Well, that is pre-2004-ish there.
Yeah, this is one of their old jerseys, so.
Yeah, that's why I said you have the B on the shoulder.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Retro, what's going on, man? Good to have you along here. We're gonna get started in a minute. We're just preempting our live stream here. We're changing shirts.
I'll give you about an hour before you just shed that thing before you're.
Yeah, probably will. I'll be like, wow, it's getting hot already. Yeah, we'll start in a couple minutes. Just giving everyone a chance to show up. So when you don't do it regularly, then people forget,
Right.
So
well, a lot of years, you've been doing your board games and your, Stratomatic. And it's like, well, you do the end of the month for baseball. That's been consistent, but it's nice to kind of get one of these in,
Yeah, yeah. I like to get Dave Gardner in.
You know who else would be a decent guy, maybe if he shows up a little more? Ewan Olaf.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
He calls a great basketball.
I think I was like subscriber number 5 or 6 for him. It was he was in single digits when I joined. Back in the day, it's been a long time. And I was actually going to his live streams before he went on his hiatus for a while, and
Right.
Giving him tips about his broadcasting and stuff like that. So hopefully that's helped. Amish, what's going on? What's going on, man? How you doing? Hope all is well. Good to see you. We're just we'll start here in just a couple minutes. So yeah, we had some bad weather, but fortunately for us, it's all through, and we don't have to worry about losing power or anything. We got about an inch of rain too in that hour time. It was really coming down. So
yeah, unfortunately, that's for Northeast Ohio area. One area is just when it hit on the day after the 4th. just flooded.
Yeah.
We can't take, well, it's nice if we get a week without it. It'll dry out everything.
Yeah. Well, with Barry coming up that way, I think it's going to head up there and come around. I saw like Thursday or Friday, like Ohio's supposed to be getting it. So
it seems anything that comes up from that area, like when Katrina made landfall, we got hit hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, did you get anything from Amazon Prime?
No, I'm not a member. Plus, after watching the John Oliver thing, I'm not sure how much I really want to order from Amazon.
Oh, really? I don't. What's that?
Okay, so John Oliver does the, he goes takes an inside look on things, and he kind of pulled back the cover on how Amazon works, and they don't really treat their employees all that well. And the fact that, number one, some of their buildings don't have air conditioning, and then you got to run like 4 football fields sometimes to get stuff. So, I mean, I've used them before. I mean, that's how I got my first Stratomatic game.
Oh, through Amazon, really?
The 2015, the championship set, they sold it on Amazon, and since I had enough gift cards, it was $0 for me.
Oh, nice.
So
Was that
essentially,
the 2016 set, or was that a different set?
it was the 15 set. It was the LCS team. So it was the Cubs,
just the 4.
Yeah,
yeah,
and the All-Star teams. But you got the charts with it, so you didn't have to pay extra for
But
it.
you reminded me, I have to talk about that, don't I? All right, we'll give it like 8:05. So we'll give it another minute and a half just to give everyone a chance. Not that we're, not ready to go. Look at that.
Right.
I see like a little aura around my. See
Yeah.
that? It's weird. So do 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 do. Boom 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 boom. Alrighty, well, we're just hanging out. Give it another minute, and we'll just make sure, because I don't want to have to, go over anything again.
No.
All right, well, I guess we'll get started. People that miss out, they'll just have to watch afterwards. So that's just the way it goes sometimes. Alrighty, so everyone, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, IDJESTER. We got a special YouTube sports community member here. Going to spend the evening with us here for the next hour or two and talk sports, talk about his interests, what he likes, talk to him about his projects and all that wonderful things. And some of you may or may not be familiar with him, so we want to introduce him to everyone and let them know what he does, how he does things. Maybe join up on his channel for sure. I'm a subscriber, and I highly recommend it. He does a great job. And that is TRIBEFAN879. Thanks for coming out tonight and spending some time with us.
Good evening, IDJ. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. So we haven't really spoken since we did our baseball preview show, which you were part of. I think you were in the second group.
Yes.
With let's see, that was you. It was Clinton. It was
me, Rob, Anthony from Bleacher Bumps Gaming.
Anthony, right.
And
yourself, right?
No, Demos wasn't part of that. He was part of the first group. I thought there was.
So it was you, it was Rob, it was Bleacher Bums Gaming. And I thought it was who else was on that panel?
I think it was remember.
No, I think Clinton was on with you guys. He wasn't on the first one. He must have been on with you guys.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure because the first group was Retro and David from Baseball Demos, and so it was David and Retro and
Retro Sport was Mike on with us, Mr. Mike.
Maybe Clinton was on the first one. Maybe Sports Time Machine was on with you. Anyways, we haven't got the chance to talk with you baseball. We haven't talked to you much about what the season's going on. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. We're going to find out all about TRIBEFAN879. So first question for me, and a lot of people out there probably interested to find out. There's a lot of people like Al, Red Sox fan, that name their persona over their team, which is what you had done. But where does the 879 come from?
That is the month and year of my birth.
Okay, I was assuming that, but I wasn't for sure. So it was just so I'm assuming somebody already had Tribe Fan.
It's just something I put numbers after something just to kind of.
Oh, okay. All right. So you didn't even try to see if there was a tribe. There probably already is somebody named Tribe Fan or whatever.
Right.
So adding your numbers or whatever is excellent. So Cleveland, huh? Cleveland.
Yes.
I grew up in Western New York, Buffalo, and then I moved to Columbus, Ohio. And besides the Buckeyes, it has been a long, long time a suffering sports fan for my history, and I'm sure you feel the kind of the same way. So we definitely have some, we kind of can relate to suffering sports teams. So you are obviously a Cleveland Indians fan, and suffering for many, many seasons until Cleveland got good. But
right. Essentially, I went until I was 15 before there was 87 when they went over 500, but they weren't a playoff team until I was 15.
So you always were a Cleveland fan from day one, or was it something you grew up with, or just decided that's my team, or
something I grew up with? Dad always took us to games on a Sunday when they would always throw in buy one, get the kids get in for reduced price.
Right. And so then you grew up with them, and you went through all the trying times with them. That was pretty hard growing up as a kid. See, I was a Bills fan and a Sabres fan when I was growing up. So, having these teams that were like 3-13, and then when they finally got good, it was like, oh, here's our chance.
It went kind of in reverse for me for the Browns. The Browns were good when I was young, and then they were bad before they left.
But the Browns, talk about heartache, huh?
Yeah, it's 3 out of 4 years you get to the championship game, 2 of them by flukiness, and then the one you just got your butts kicked by Denver. But it wouldn't have mattered. You still would have got whooped by the 49ers in the 89 game.
Yeah, well, you never know. I mean, you never know. But I was rooting for Cleveland there when the fumble came. I thought he was in the end zone. I did not see the ball come loose, and I was like, yes, Farnley, yes. I think half of America was on cheering before they realized the fumble there because they wanted Cleveland so bad.
Right, and Dick Enberg even himself, before he died, said when he called the game, you'll hear a pause before he says, and it's a fumble, because he thought he was in the end zone.
That would have been one of the greatest moments for Cleveland, for sure. Now, are you a Cavalier fan as well?
Not really. I mean, I'll get into it if they make the playoffs. I mean, it's great for the city to kind of, it makes extra money for the bars when it's usually one of their slower times.
Right. So, there was that we got LeBron James, then he left, and everyone hated him, then he came back. So where do you stand on all that fiasco there? Or you just don't care because it's basketball?
Well, okay, so he did make a promise that he was going to bring a championship back to Cleveland, and he did. So at that point, it's, hey, if you want to go, you did what you said you were going to do, and you know, I understand that you want to kind of transition into more producing stuff. So Hollywood is kind of where you want to go, unless you want to try to start production company in Cleveland, which I wouldn't highly recommend. But
All right. So you got the Browns, you got the Cavaliers, and of course you got the Indians, and of course now the closest hockey team is the Blue Jackets. So I noticed you were wearing a Blue Jackets jersey, so you are a hockey fan as well, and so you picked up on the Blue Jackets.
right, although I was not a hockey fan at birth, I started at about like 13 or 14. The Maple Leafs were actually my first team because I fell on in Northeast Ohio. You can get CKLW AM 800 out of Windsor, and they used to be the Maple Leafs affiliate. So when they made their run to the conference finals and losing to Vancouver before they lost to the Rangers, uh, that's kind of how I felt. Plus, I had my little almanac so I could kind of follow along when they were mentioning the names.
Right? Yeah.
I didn't. All I knew was Gretzky and Lemieux.
Gretzky and Lemieux. Yeah, well, that's two good guys to know right there. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, so yeah, I know what you're saying because I grew up in Buffalo, as I mentioned. So we'd get BBC Hockey Night in Canada, and every Saturday night we'd get a hockey game, and so that's of course we had the Sabres as well, but of course they weren't very good for a long, long time.
Well,
It seems like no matter where I was, the hockey team was not very good. When I lived in Columbus, the Blue Jackets were awful. They made the playoff once, but they got swept, so they never won a playoff game. And I think they were only in the playoffs once when I was there. Then I moved away, and lo and behold, now they're turned into a powerhouse team out of nowhere. So that's pretty exciting.
yeah, that was. Well, I did go to the first game against the Red Wings. That was a blast. But now we'll see how the medal is tested with losing the star goaltender, one of the leading scorers, a guy that helped you in the playoffs, and okay, Ryan Dzingel, you can go away too.
Yeah, it's gonna be back to they're there's certain teams that like Cleveland or Columbus or Buffalo or whatever, they're down, and then they got about 4 or 5 year span where they have to do something because they don't have the funds, they don't have the commitment to do it long term. Like the Cardinals, they can be down for a few years, but they're never going to be out of it because they have the funds, they have the commitment from the crowd, the fans, and everything. You take a smaller market team, and of course, that's when when you get good, you get all your draft picks right. You get all your free agent pickups. You sign a few players that nobody else wants, and things gel together. That's your time to make hay.
Right.
And now Cleveland's back down to the Browns specifically are back down to being horrible again because they made some bad draft picks. What do you think of their quarterback there now?
Baker.
Baker. What do you think of him?
Well,
Is he going to be okay?
The latter part of the season, at least, was watchable. I mean, when you're rooting for a team to go 8-7-1 because you haven't seen a 500 team since 2002, I think, or 2007. Sorry, 2007. They went 10-6. Since that, it was like, oh, well, and this isn't smoke and mirrors, and you have a legitimate quarterback and hopefully legitimate running back and you did it with essentially maybe a third-rate tight end, and Landry's at least an A or a B receiver.
Yeah.
But
so there's hope and promise. Is Cleveland building back up to that 4 or 5 year span now where they're going to have a chance?
Well, I don't know how. The premise is when you get good is when you have to start being like the Steelers and pulling from that bottom half of the draft or pulling from that second and third round, finding that talent from that small, maybe predominantly black college like they did when the Steelers did when they got like John Stallworth and, Mel
Right.
Blount and all that. So,
yeah. I mean, that's when the Buffalo Bills got good. Is they got all these second, third, fourth, and fifth round picks to hit. You know, they got Jim Kelly in the first round, but then they had their second rounds and third round picks. You know, Thurman Thomas was a second round pick. Cornelius Bennett. You know, there was like 4 or 5 of them in a row that were all second, third, fourth round picks. And when you hit on all those, then you got a good team to build around, and then you got 4 or 5 years before you start losing them to free agency, or they get injured or whatever. And yeah, it's the small market teams have to take advantage of it. You know, just like Cincinnati Bengals. You know, they have a couple good years, and then they're not good for 12 years, as they have to hit on every cylinder to be able to be pretty good.
Right.
And that's kind of my take. So sports, let's rank them. You know, let's just rank the major ones: baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. Favorite to least favorite. What would you just tell us a little bit about what your philosophy is on sports?
Well, baseball is number one, but hockey each year is kind of growing ever closer, as you know, the baseball wants to try to tinker with making it quicker and faster. And I love the fact that you can sit back, relax. You know, it's during the warmer months. You know, you can kind of just, if you want to watch it, great. You know, if not, that's okay too. Or you can just have the radio on, like I used to do when I was a kid, because I didn't have cable. But baseball number one, hockey number two, the speed and the fact that a guy that's on the third line, like I'll throw a name out there, Ruslan Fedotenko, being that you're near Tampa. Nobody knows who he is, but guess what? He can say, I scored 2 goals in a clinching game of the Stanley Cup to win. Yep. Now, you're not saying that a guy at the end of the bench in basketball is going to throw up 25 points off the bench in the NBA Finals, because he's probably not going to play in the clinching game. Right. And also the thing with that the playoffs are just the top teams will clinch, but the race is always at the bottom. Just it goes for the games all matter from start to finish. I mean, yep. Not to say that you want that every team's going to be able to pull the St. Louis Blues where you're at the bottom of the league and then make the playoffs and win the cup.
All right, so you baseball, then hockey, then
football,
and then basketball.
Then basketball. Football is I hate that they're getting away from the running game.
Yeah. To
it's
me, a different game now. I mean, you watch it just the last 5 years and compare it to 15 years ago, it's just a completely different game.
And then the problem I have with basketball now is it's either a dunk or a three-pointer. They have all these analytics. Oh, well, shooting this many more three-pointers is the same. Don't care. You ain't got a guy that can hit a mid-range jump shot. To me, and the ball movement it's terrible. It's one person dribbling and then
running around the pick, and then he either shoots it, right, or he sends it to the guy who was standing there.
Mm-hmm.
The pick and roll. I mean, that was just crazy. Right. So let's just say hello to our folks that made it out today. Amish Elvis, Retro Sports Network, and Sports Time Machine, Viper Dave. Welcome, everyone. If you have any thoughts or questions for TRIBEFAN879, be sure to put them in the chat, and we'll see if we can get to them a little bit later. I'll write them down, the questions, if you have one now. We'll take question and answers in the last little bit of the interview. So, but I will write it down. So if you think of something, let us know. All right. So baseball's number one, hockey's number two, and now you talked about is getting closer and closer. And the way I talked about it, I think when Retro Sports Network did an interview of mine, was I kind of feel the same way, where baseball is still number one for me, and hockey is very close number two. And in fact, if it came to a choice of a regular season baseball game and a playoff hockey game, I would actually put the playoff hockey game above the regular season baseball game because of the intensity and the live and die mentality of every single second that goes on. And that's why you see something like the Columbus Blue Jackets who go out and sweep the Tampa Bay Lightning, who set the record for points in the league this season. And the AC Columbus Blue Jackets, who barely sneak in the playoffs, go and sweep them in the first round because Tampa Bay had no desire to be there. They could care less about being there, and Columbus wanted it more. So is that what your take of? I'm sure you watched the series.
Oh yeah, I did. The thing that I thought of, Tampa thought they could skate at you have a 3-0 lead. We're okay. We can score at will. We don't have to play as hard. We gave up a shorthanded goal in the second period. We're still up 3-1. We don't. Oh, it's 3-2. Oh, it's tied. Oh, we're losing, and we can't turn it back on. And then the coach got panicked too. Like, you don't say it's a 5-alarm fire when you've won 62 games. Like, you should be, after game 1, you should have been so embarrassed that you turn on the Jets in game 2 and not get blown out 5-1.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I heard the matchups, I was like, oh damn. Columbus,
trust me, I was
Tampa Bay's got to play Columbus in their first round. Oh, poor Columbus. God. And then after watching that series, I got to wear my jersey to work and tease all the girls that were, had all their Lightning jerseys and everything on. I got to wear my Columbus jersey and take pictures of them. So that was a fun time there. But yeah, so baseball regular season, hockey playoffs. I would actually put the hockey playoffs above the baseball. And then if it came down to, which it wouldn't because they're at different times of the year, but if it was hockey playoffs versus baseball playoffs, I would actually put the baseball playoffs above the hockey playoffs. Would you rank it that way, or would you change that ranking at all? Or
I kind of think that as a whole, I think the baseball playoffs maybe are a little bit better. It seems that the hockey, the first round is always the most exciting, and then it's just the war of attrition. Like, the first round, great, your upsets happen, but the cream kind of rises to the top in the second round and later. And the last kind of for great Stanley Cup finals, like this one wasn't bad, but like I'll have to go back to like 2013. I think was the last, like, oh my gosh, this was the great hockey that was played, or it wasn't like the Kings that dominated for 3 games and then kind of let the Devils win 2 games. And usually the finals aren't great. It's just kind of a coronation.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. Don't quite agree with it, but I agree. I see where you're coming from. There can be times where, you get a couple upsets in the first round, but then the top 2 teams in each side usually end up going, oh man, we escaped in a 7-game series. We better turn it on now. And then they end up blowing out the next round. But for these playoffs, these last 2018-2019 season was, there was, I don't know if it's going to help hockey or hurt hockey, but there was some major playoff regular teams that didn't even make the playoffs this year. Pittsburgh, the Penguins, out.
No, they made it.
Oh, they made it. That's right. They made it, but they were out in the first round, right? The Rangers didn't make it. Montreal didn't make it. In the Western Conference, the Blackhawks didn't make it. There was just like, if you looked at that first round matchup, it was like, who's playing who?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that introduced more teams and more players to people out there, or if other people are like, I don't care about Minnesota, who the hell they're playing, and turned it off. I don't know that. I didn't see any, reports on the, the viewership, if it was up or down. But
the problem that I see is that NBC has a Mason-Dixon problem. Mason-Dixon and east of the Mississippi problem. They only show teams north of the Mason-Dixon line and east of the Mississippi. And it's kind of smart, I'll agree. Buffalo is always going to be one of your better draws. Pittsburgh still has Crosby and Malkin. Chicago has Kane and Taves along with the big TV market. Rangers aren't going to be much of a draw, so I'm going to be interested to see maybe Panarin still gets them enough, draws, but I don't think they're that much of a draw on TV now. Like essentially you only have 2 or 3 teams that are draws, but it's like the hardcore fans will be like, yeah, okay, Kessel's in Arizona now, so they have a little bit of star power, and they weren't terrible this year, and you know, you still got to get all the teams on. So when you get to the Stanley Cup, and it's the one year it was Ottawa and Anaheim, nobody gave a damn about that.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it can hurt other sports as well, but it does seem like the teams, like you said, that are up north and to the east tend to get Boston, New York. Every time they have a series, it seems like it's on ESPN. And I think the best
Philly
thing,
to Pittsburgh, or Washington and Pittsburgh.
yeah, or Washington or Pittsburgh. I think I'd like to find out how the TV ratings did compared to the season before when it was Washington and Vegas. I think Washington, first time there after all their struggles and all the times they came so close and getting knocked out year after year after year, they finally made it to the finals. And then they got this brand new team, Vegas, and it's like, wow, can this expansion team win? In their first season, and I probably drew a lot of fans in. So I'd like to compare and see.
I think I'd
Dave
like to see that
Gardner,
too.
Dave Gardner, buddy, look at what I got on. I got my hockey jersey on just for you, Dave, just for you.
So you giving us crap about the team on it?
Yeah, he is. He is. Blue Jackets unsub, he says. He ought to be happy. He ought to be damn well happy. He ought to be damn well happy that we're talking hockey, because he's probably going through withdrawals because it's been a month now since he's seen a hockey game. So, how about them St. Louis Blues? Woo! All right, I need to get me a jersey.
It was fun to watch. I mean, a lot of the good stories came together with Layla, the little girl going through the cancer, and then Patrick Maroon going back to his hometown and seeing they did the interview with his son on Hockey Night about his son, and you could tell that his kid means everything to him. Like, you get some of these players away from the ice, and they're, to me, just from what I see, they can be some of the best off the playing surface.
Yeah, I mean, you see, and I don't like comparing different sports, but it seems like the personalities in hockey. You see them walking down the street carrying the Stanley Cup and just letting other people come over and touch it and doing everything with them. They're not like these, I'm too good for you, you stay away from me type people, which some of the sports tend to, that's the impression I get.
I mean, you still have some of your divas, like Sergei Fedorov when he played in Columbus was not and Jeff Carter were not the most approachable.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably. But in general terms, I'm talking, you're always going to have the highs and lows. I mean, if you look at the NBA, Mike Trout seems like one of these guys you could, if you're going to the beach and he's sitting down next to you, he'd be like, hey, you want to throw a football back and forth or whatever, just kind of a hometown guy.
Or play catch like you see the one where they play catch in the stands.
Right, exactly. So, there's some in every sport, but I think in general, hockey players always seem to be, they kind of feel like the odd man out. So they got to be more, they tend to think of their sport as, popularity wise, it's football, then baseball. I'm sorry, football, then basketball, then baseball, then hockey. If you take a poll from across the country. So I think the hockey players go, the only way we're going to move up the ladder in popularity is to be more, friendly with the folks and outgoing and more, just community based.
Right. I think the one thing that does hurt hockey though is the fact that the best players are maybe on the ice a third of the game.
Yep. Well, there's two ways to look at that. one way is, hey, I get to know the players that are really good because they're out there all the time. You know, if I watch a baseball game, my best, one player might come up every 3 innings.
Fair
So
point.
I'm not gonna learn them as well as if they're out there every inning getting at bat. So I mean, there's always two ways to look at things, but anytime, as Baseball Demos says in the chat, anytime that a team from Boston loses, it's a beautiful thing, no matter what the sport is. And that's not from me, guys. That's from Baseball Demos. Hashtag Baseball Demos if you want to send them a message. So that's not for me. All righty. So thanks to Baseball Demos. Red Sox fan is here as well. So thank you, guys. We're talking a little bit hockey. I don't know. We're just going to talk in general for you guys that unfamiliar. We were talking with TRIBEFAN879. We're going to talk about his channel and all of his upcoming projects and his recently completed project coming up. But we got sidetracked talking about hockey. That's what happens when you get Dave Gardner in the chat. He just like hockey. Talk about hockey. That's all he does all day long, I think.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, your feeling is kind of like my feeling. Baseball still a little bit above, but they're very close. And then you got way down here is football, and then like way down on the ground is basketball.
Think of the money ball. There's the good sports, 50 feet of what, and basketball.
Right. That's it. That's kind of my feeling. I haven't played a basketball sports game in 10 years, 12 years. I bought inside the hoop. I bought the Action PC, Dave Coach Action PC basketball. I played, I bought both of those games, and I think I played them once in the last 10 years. I'm just not a basketball guy. It doesn't really interest me. I don't follow it. My heyday was back, maybe I'd follow things in the late 80s, early 90s when it seemed a little more interesting.
Yep.
Ever since then, I couldn't tell you who's on whose team, who got traded, who's good, who's not good. It seems like every year it's Golden State taking on Cleveland. And then when LeBron left, it was like, throw a dart at a dartboard to see who's going to make it.
Well, especially when there's been, I think, 10 teams in the last 30, like since I've been born, that have won the NBA title. Then it's 39 years, I think.
Yep.
It's very dynastic. And then again, the NHL's been kind of that way too, but at least you get different opponents on the other side. It's not the same like the Lakers and the Celtics facing each other for 5 years in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a couple years where it was Detroit and Pittsburgh played 3 out of 4 or 3 out of 5 years. I think they played. But I mean, you've had the Kings win, you've had the Blackhawks win, you have Pittsburgh win, you had the Red Wings win, you had Washington win, St. Louis.
And I mean, Carolina, the first year post-lockout.
Yeah. I mean, so you got a good variety. I mean, it's not the same two teams every year. I mean, there was, like I said, there was a span there where Pittsburgh and Detroit were the best two teams. They met quite a few times in a row, and that gave Crosby his first. I'm sure Dave Gardner will be, letting us know what seasons who were. I'm not.
2008 and 2009, by the way.
No, there you go. See, I don't keep track of that stuff. My brain, I got too many other important things to keep track.
Yeah, it's kind of one of my things. Too much rattling around up here.
All right, so that's enough hockey talk. That's just the path it went. So that's good. It's always good to talk hockey. I don't mind talking hockey. I'm not going to spend this whole episode talking about hockey.
No,
but it was good. It was good to find out what your feelings are. So when Tribe Fan 879 is not playing YouTube and playing your sports sims, what does Tribe Fan like to do?
So a lot of the reasons why I don't join any of the Tuesday and Thursday get-togethers is that I'm usually playing trivia at a bar with a group of people that I know. They have the trivia on the TV, and you get a little computer in front of you, and you get to answer the questions, and you try to get your best five to be the top in the nation, U.S. and Canada, essentially.
Right.
The other thing is, thankfully, there's a place near where I go to church. Is they have a pinball league.
Awesome. I love pinball. Love pinball.
I don't know how well this is going to get on camera.
What? Nice.
So there was they break it up into so it's because we had a lot of people, it was like the top 32 or 34. And I got in the second group and I got first place for the last one.
See, that would have been a great trivia question to ask without showing us the trophy. You could have said something like, I have a trophy for a sport or for an event that I placed first in, and I won't tell you what it is, and we could have had everyone guess. I wish we would have done that, because I don't know if anybody would have guessed pinball, but we are going to test your expertise on the trivia. So what I want the chat to do right now, think of a trivia question, put it in the chat. We're going to start asking TribeFan879 and find out if all this practice trivia is helping them out.
I will admit, I do. My expertise is not literature and art. Trust me, when those come up on Jeopardy, this is what you'll hear.
So what is your forte? Sports?
Yes, sports. Like movies. Geography a little bit.
Okay. So if you guys think of a trivia question, sports or movie related, put it in the chat, and we're going to ask TribeFan879 and see if he can get the question.
It's kind of iffy if it's movies. We'll see.
There you go. All right, so we'll get through. We'll give everyone a few minutes to think about a good question. So it's nice to hear. I love pinball. It's I broadcast live pinball a long time ago. It's been a long time since I did it on my channel, and I think that's actually how me and Clinton met. I was pinball, and Clinton came by to see what it was because he's a big pinball guy. So I think if I lived back in Ohio and I had moved to Florida, we could have hanged out. We could have had a really good time together because your views on things and my views seem to match really well. So
there's also the I hear there's a Free Play Florida event that happens once a year down there for the pinball.
Really? I mean, I played on the computer. I've got all the different software, and I got FX Pinball 2, FX Pinball 3 with a whole bunch of the different tables. I had the one pinball, I think it's called Pinball Classic, that recreates the actual tables. And yeah, I grew up playing that. That was my thing. That was me and my buddy would get his mom to drive us to the arcade every Saturday night, and we would sit there and just quarter away, quarter, and just play.
Well, sadly, now it's dollar.
I know. Big difference.
They put the LCD screens in the background, and they got all this little, animations and all that. It's like, hey, we got to make back our money here somehow.
Yeah. That's why playing on the computer is a lot cheaper now.
Oh, you got that right. It's gonna be there. I joke that there's gonna be a time like where I play at that all the front world it's essentially a comic book shop and kind of fantasy gaming. That all the front ones are gonna be dollar games.
Yeah, just type it in the chat there. Oops, there we go. All right, so you watch sports, you play pinball, and you go to the trivia. What is there any other hobbies that you likes, dislikes?
I don't go to games.
Do you create artwork? Anything? No.
Essentially, though, my problem is that by the time I get home, it's about 6 or 6:30 in the evening, and there's kind of not much to do. And I don't really have any new video game systems. I don't feel like spending $60 whatchamacallit. I don't have a computer, a working one. So,
Oh, you don't have a computer?
yeah, essentially I've used my phone for Facebook and
Yeah.
YouTube and
Yeah.
all that. I mean, I'd like to be able to get one sooner rather than later, but I've kind of gone this long. I mean, I can head to the library if I need to print out like Stratomatic stuff for
Right.
extra players, but you kind of like to be able to be able to do two things at once or three things at once.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Well, I mean, the longer you don't buy it, the cheaper they get. The more you can save up, the better off you are in the long run.
Well, plus the fact that I was a software development major, so like stuff changes all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's true. So, question. We got our first question in the chat. Thanks to baseball demos in the movie 42. Did you ever see the movie 42?
Once.
Once. Okay. Do you remember who played Leo DeRoshi?
Leo DeRocha was played by Christopher Maloney.
Oh, I don't know because I've never seen the movie. Somebody
He is Detective Stabler on Law and Order SVU.
See, the man knows everything. He's intelligent. He's wise. He knows freaking everything. What year did Topps release their first baseball card set?
19. Oh, first baseball set. Let's see. I know they have an anniversary this year.
Was it 50?
44?
Was it 25?
1944?
Huh?
1944?
1944. Baseball Demos says you are correct on the movie question. What year did Topps release their first baseball card was brought to you by Retro Sports Network. So we'll see. 1951 says Retro Sports Network. So you're very, very close. A lot closer than I would have gotten. Very good. Very good.
And I actually collected for a while when I was a kid.
Oh, I don't even want to think about how much money I spent on that stuff. Yeah.
I still have I think the last set I collected was 93 Topps, and I still have my Derek Jeter draft pick card.
So what is, do you have any like prized positions? Do you collect anything?
I do have one.
Besides your trophy. Your trophy.
No. Okay, so the Blue Jackets did host a post-game autograph session once, and the special guest that night was Willie O'Ree, and I have Willie O'Ree's autograph.
All right.
And Willie O'Ree, for those that don't know, was the first African-American player to play in the NHL.
That would have been a great trivia question because I didn't know that.
Yeah. So he was sitting there with Manny Malhotra, if you remember him.
Oh, yeah, I remember Manny. Sure.
So he was sitting at the table with him. Except for that, it's my Stratomatic stuff. Essentially, that's all prized. But except for that, I've had my, DVDs, I guess you could say, but not really. I don't watch much of them anymore.
All right, let's talk baseball. Cleveland Indians fan. 1947, right?
48.
1948. It's been a long time.
With 2 heartbreaks out of 3 that I can remember in the World Series.
I remember distinctly the Florida Marlins Game 7.
Yep.
And of course, we're going to talk about 2016. We're going to talk about that one. What was the other one?
Well, 95 was not the disappointment because a lot of the fans were just happy that they got there.
Okay. I wouldn't have been. Were you?
Well, the fact that they ran through the playoff, I wouldn't say ran through. They got lucky to win Game 1 against the Red Sox in the division series. And then he got beat by Bob Wolcott in the championship series in Game 1 because you thought you were going to face Randy Johnson, but no, you got beat by some nobody. So that was a little bit more. And then the first two games, they probably were walking and going, we're way in over our heads.
Yeah. And 95 was their championship against Atlanta, right?
Yes, it's the one where they won 100 out of 144.
Right. And that's right, because I'm doing the Seattle last 30 games of the season, so I know a little bit about that. Right. And that was going to be the pitching matchup versus the batting matchup, because Atlanta had the awesome pitchers and okay batting. Cleveland had awesome offense with okay pitchers.
Right.
And that was going to be a classic, but it didn't turn into a classic.
No, I mean, the Indians won 2 out of 3 at home, but couldn't win in Atlanta.
Yeah. And I guess we found out pitching is better. But, yeah, that was kind of a disappointment. And then, of course, you had the 7-game series against Florida Marlins. But you know how I feel about 2016. And I know how I feel about 2016. I can't imagine being a Cleveland Indian fan. I've always said this, if it wasn't for that damn interruption, that rainstorm that came in, Cleveland probably would end up winning that World Series.
It's a definite possibility, but getting Ben Zobrist out would have helped too.
Yeah. Or not pitching around Schwarber, like nobody at that point, where nobody had even heard of this dude. He doesn't even have most payoff pitch doesn't even have a 2016 card for him. You have to, get it in a special set just to get his playoff game.
Stratomatic did throw it in, but he only had 4 at-bats in the regular season, and they said, please only use him for postseason replays only.
Right, yeah, that's kind of what I hear, but man, when
you go up 3-1, you need to close it out, and unfortunately it's been downhill.
3-1, you just have to win 1 of 3 games. But that 7th game, that was I can't imagine when Rajai Davis hits that 2-run home run when nobody thought he was stand a chance against Aroldis Chapman, and he hits that home run. You must have been going through the roof.
Oh, well, the thing is, I live in an apartment, so I have to kind of keep it down a little bit. But yeah, I was going as kind of wild as I can without waking up the neighbors.
Yeah, that was it was a really good series. I mean, the outcome I hated, but it was a really good series to watch. I mean, it looked like it was over, and then Chicago came out of nowhere, and man, oh man, if I have one regret in this world, it's Cleveland not winning that World Series, because I don't want to hear from Cub fans. I do not want to hear from Cub fans. It's bad enough hearing from Boston fans now that they've won a championship, but now you have to hear from Cub fans. If we could have just shut those two fan bases out for another 20 years until I'm dead, then that would have been fine with me. That would have been fine.
Well, 2016 would have been the year of the parade because, well, of course, the Cavs had theirs, and then the Monsters won. The Jackets affiliate plays in Cleveland as well, the AAA team, and they won the championship that year too. I was actually at the game that they won the Calder Cup.
And that wasn't that the year the Cavaliers won as well.
Right. The Cavs won, the Monsters won, both owned by Dan Gilbert, and then the Indians went to the 7th game of the World Series. Let's just say it was a great distraction to have to not worry about that other team that plays in the old, essentially on the same side as the old Indian Stadium until early November that year.
Yeah, exactly. Question for you from one of our fine fellow community members, Sports Time Machine. Asks the question, is Albert Bell a Hall of Fame? Is he a Hall of Famer in your opinion?
No, he is not. I only say this because he did win we won 2 RBI titles, but the degenerative hip kind of excludes him. And plus, he was not great defensively.
All right. Well, I mean, you're gonna what are they gonna do when David Ortiz gets up for a vote? Are they gonna say the same thing? Well, he's mostly a DH, so we can't put him in, and he sucked at defense, and he never ran down first base ever in his entire lifetime.
Well, he also didn't throw a ball into somebody's chest. He didn't smash thermostats. The only reason the Indians really got him was because they were the Indians, and they were terrible then. And everybody else passed on him, but the Indians were like, well, what do we have to lose? We'll take this head case. And it was so bad that he had to change his name his second or third year in the league. He was Joey Bell when he started. And the funny thing is, Joey is not even his real first name. It's Albert Joan Bell is actually his full name.
Well, there you go. I had something else I didn't know. That would have been a good trivia question. Where's your guys' trivia questions? God. Yeah, but I mean, he had a really good span there for 4 or 5 years. Like
from 93 to 96 or 97. You didn't want to face him in any type of situation where he could hit the ball in the ballpark to win a game, or they hit 100. I think it was 103 extra base hits in 144 games. It's one of the better seasons in Indians history.
Yep.
But Hall of Famer, sadly, no.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, he stands above a lot of other players, but I don't think he stands that high above them. That's kind of my philosophy on it. For Hall of Fame, you got your players, and then you got your good players, and then to be a Hall of Famer, you have to stand above those good players by a little bit. I think Albert Bell kind of fits in the just above good player kind of category for me. Mm-hmm. Would you, is that how you rank him, or?
Right. Yeah. He's essentially one of the better Indians outfielders of all time, but I don't think he's one of the greats of the 90s, but not an all-time great.
I don't know if I mentioned this or not, but Cleveland should have won the 2016 World Series. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. So I'm going to keep mentioning that throughout this episode because it really pisses me off. All right. So favorite Cleveland Indians player ever. If you could, if they had a, like a contest and the winner gets to pick their Cleveland Indian player to spend the day with, who would you love to hang out with?
Wow. Just to kind of, I want to follow the bad Indians teams. I mean, there were some good players there. I want to pick Jim Thome's brain. I wouldn't mind spending the day with him.
Yeah, he's a good choice. Who maybe give us your top 5 if you can.
Sandy Alomar Jr. would be another good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I want to pick Kenny Lofton's brain about playing with Steve Kerr in Arizona, and also his ungodly defensive skills. I actually want to say something to Joe Carter to thank him for help building the dynasty teams of the 90s, because his trade to San Diego got us Sandy Alomar and Carlos Baerga. So Joe Carter would be another, and plus to talk the 93 World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And let's see, and Francisco Lindor.
All right.
So that's kind of my top 5.
Very good choices. Most disappointing season for you that Cleveland had, whether it was you thought they were going to be good and they didn't even make the playoffs, or you thought this is going to be the season we win it all and they didn't.
It's a toss-up between 1996 and 1999. 1999, they scored 1,009 runs, and essentially because Dave Burba got hurt, it threw away the entire pitching staff, and Bartolo Colon couldn't. They couldn't pitch, and then Pedro Martinez shuts us out for 6-7 innings, whatever it was, after Pete Shurik started that game. So I think I'll have to go 99 is probably the bigger disappointment.
Yeah. It's hard when your team is so good, so long, so good, dominant through the season. Kind of go, back to Tampa Bay Lightning. You're dominating through the regular season, and all of a sudden, bam, the door is shut.
And they were up 2-0 against Boston in that series.
Yeah. And anybody that wins against Boston, again, this is just Baseball Demo saying this, not me, but he says anytime Boston loses, it's a good thing. So we haven't talked. If you're just joining us, I appreciate it. Max Cornelius is here. C. White, Retro Sports Network, Max Cornelius, Sports Time Machine, Baseball Demos. Guys, thanks to everyone for coming out. Appreciate it. We're talking with TRIBEFAN879. Make sure you are a subscriber to his wonderful channel. We're going to talk about his channel, his projects, upcoming projects, etc. Right now, we're talking baseball. So we got together before the season started. Why don't you refresh everyone's memories as to who you picked in each division and who you had in the World Series? Because I'm sure everyone out there would love to hear your picks that you gave before the season started.
Okay, so the National League, I had Atlanta to win the East because I thought knew who they had on the team. And the Nationals are making it very interesting, I will say that much. The Central, I had the Brewers. And then the West was the Dodgers. That was the obvious one. It's essentially going to be a cakewalk, and they may end up being, if they clinch by right after Labor Day, I wouldn't be shocked. The American League, I had the Red Sox. Wow, should have listened to you. Can't put two seasons together in a row. Should have known. The Central, I had the Indians. I don't think they're going to win the Central. I don't. And the West, I had the Astros.
And the World Series matchup?
The Brewers and the Red Sox.
Brewers, Red Sox.
And I wish I would have realized how good the Dodgers are from top to bottom.
Well, I mean, we didn't get to see it. We didn't get to see Cody Bellinger, right? Last year he was okay, but nobody thought that he was going to be like all world this year without him being all world.
And who knew about Hyunjin Ryu?
Right. Who would have thought that? So I'm not going to give you a reprieve. But what I will do, I will let you say who you think now your division winners will be, and also who your World Series matchup would be, and then we'll compare. We'll give you Part A and Part B at the end of the season.
Okay, well, I'll still go with the Braves to win the NL East. Oh boy. Wow, the Central is so packed tight. I can't see Cincinnati's out. I'm almost going to call that. I'll go. You know what? I think I'll go with St. Louis to maybe right the ship. I don't know. You could essentially just throw a dart and the team could end up winning. The West will still be the Dodgers for the National League. Starting from the West, American League, still the Astros. Central, I think I'll go with the Twins. They should be getting Rosario back soon, and another one of their big hitters should be coming back, which will help. It's not like they're doing terrible without him, but I mean, just to have the security, And then for the East will be the Yankees.
All right. And then if you had to pick a World Series today for coming up in October, what would you guess now?
If I had to guess now, it would probably be the Dodgers and the Astros.
Yep. Okay. Good choices. Good choices. I'm a little surprised you didn't continue to pick up on Cleveland. So I'm sensing you're not high on that pick. Now I've been a big Twins believer. I believed in the Twins all season, but Cleveland's starting to put it together. They did not play well up until the last month or so, and it seems like they're starting to get some of their players back. It's all going to come down to whether or not they trade Bauer. The rumors are he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, you still have, well, is Plesac going to get it back together from AAA? He did not look great the last two starts. Jeffrey Rodriguez is rehabbing. Danny Salazar is rehabbing. I mean, I don't. You better get something. I mean, I want a corner outfielder. I am tired of. I don't like Jake Bowers. I want a corner outfielder. If you're going to trade a potential number 2, maybe number 3 starter, I want a decent corner outfielder, or at least a potential good corner outfielder.
What about pitcher? Would you go after any pitchers out there? You think you're okay pitching wise?
I mean, you could always upgrade part of the bullpen. I mean, Wickren's been good. Hand's been phenomenal. The rest can be, to me, interchangeable.
Yeah.
Just,
I like I said, I'm a big believer in the Twins this year. I picked them to win the division before the season. I saw them in preseason. I keep calling it preseason. In spring training, they looked like a really good team then. I told everyone I also saw the Nationals in spring training, and they looked really good. People didn't believe me. They didn't want to listen to me. Now all of a sudden, oh, it's time to pay the piper now. It's time to pay the piper now because there's nothing better than
we have that St. Louis Blues feel to go back to the they were down and then maybe get that big push to maybe. I mean, even for a wild card for them, it's who are you facing, the Rockies or the Cubs?
Yeah. Well, I remember I did not pick the Cardinals. I think I was like the only one that didn't pick the Cardinals to win the division because, again, I saw them in spring training and they did not look very good. They got hammered by Washington, and then they barely beat Miami the next day. And Miami had players in that I had never even heard of. That was a team that they could barely beat. I think they won 3-2 or something like that.
Right.
And I was like, seeing them one time doesn't mean you're going to get a good feel for the team. Everybody has on days and off days and everything like that. But I watched the Cardinals twice during spring training live, and they did not seem like the team. So I didn't even pick them to win. I picked Chicago to win the American League. I did have the Cardinals going as a wild card team and hosting the Mets. That doesn't look so good so far, but I didn't even have them winning the division. And I was, like a lot of you out there, it's all Dodgers all the time. I mean, I don't see anybody winning that division against the Dodgers.
And even Colorado is a wild card. Did you see the first game of the doubleheader against the Giants today?
Yeah, well, it was 17-2 at one point. I don't know what the final score was.
19-2.
19-2. Yeah, and they were actually talking on the radio on the way home. They were like, they said I think at the time it was 16-2, and so what the announcer said that the greatest comeback in Major League Baseball history has only been 12 runs, and guess who had done that?
August 12th, 2001, the Indians versus the Mariners.
That's right. They won 15-14. in extra innings, come back from a 14-2 deficit to win it. You remember that game?
I remember pumping my fist really hard when the third run came across on that Vizquel triple.
Excellent. And I was thinking, oh, that was a great trivia point for my discussion with you tonight. I was going to ask you if you knew that. So, Tabletop Sports Delaware is here. MP Fox has joined us as well. Guys, don't forget D. Scott Howard. Hit that like button if you don't mind when you get a second, or hit the down thumb button if you don't like our talk. So, anyways, yeah. I think in the American League, Yankees look tough. I told you guys, Boston were not, on, off, on, off, on, off. This is going to be an off year since they did really well last year. I mean, that was just a guess at that point. Yeah, basically the same team. If it wasn't for that rookie they got, who the hell is this guy that came out of nowhere?
Devers?
I don't remember his name, but he came out of nowhere, and he's got
the other kid. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm sure one of our fine chat members will put his name in there. I can't remember his name, but it seems like he's like a nobody, and then all of a sudden he's like carried Boston while they weren't doing jack for a long time. So yeah, I think the American League. I as high as I am on Minnesota, I am. Maybe it's just because I'm talking with you tonight. But I've watched Cleveland the last few games, and the last month I've watched some of their games, and I'm telling you, they're playing a lot better. And okay, where was the All-Star game this year?
Yes, it was in Cleveland.
It was in Cleveland, right? Mm-hmm. So they had all that hype going in, right? And now they can just relax and play some baseball and continue on. And it seems like those All-Star games really propel the home team throughout the rest of the season.
I mean, the thing I think they're not really excited about a wild card, I don't think.
Well, I mean, you were at 1 point 12 and a half back, right? And now you're only 6.5 back?
Yeah.
So you got half the deficit cut in the last month.
You still have 10 games against the Twins. Yeah.
You got 2.5 more months to catch up the rest of the half. And I think that can be done easily. I see Minnesota, they were, cruising right along. And all of a sudden now it's like, damn, we got somebody trailing us.
Then they get the Yankees coming in. They get the Mets, then they have the Mets, Oakland, and the Yankees coming in this week. So have fun with that one, especially with Oakland now having the second wild card.
Well, yeah, and Oakland just traded for Homer Bailey, so they're hopefully maybe pushing. So, if you were running the Cleveland organization, I don't see a lot of love for them this year, Tribe fan. Are they a buyer, a seller, or are they both? They're going to trade a few and get a few.
I would think that if they're within like 3 or 4 of the division going into that week of the deadline, the thing is, I don't know who they would buy. I mean, what team's going to be willing to sell? And then what do the Indians put as a priority? Do they put they know they need another bat. When your outfield probably has one of the least home runs in Major League Baseball, if not the least, I would think they'd want to get as much of a power hitter as they,
Well, which team out there has a bunch of outfielders with a lot of power? St. Louis. They got extra players in the outfield. They can't play everyone. They got Tyler O'Neill. They have Harrison Bader. They got Jose Martinez. All 3 of those guys can get you some power out there if you're looking for somebody. and they probably won't go for very much because none of them are, all-stars.
And the Indians could give them relief help, which they desperately need.
Which especially with what's his face going down.
The kid that throws Jordan Hicks.
Jordan Hicks, yeah. I kept thinking Rosario, but I knew that wasn't it. With Hicks out for the season, they put Martinez in that role. He was wild the other night, throwing everything, made it close. He ended up getting the save, but still, I mean, you can get a power outfielder from the Cardinals. They got so many of them out there, they don't know what to do with them all.
And the other rumor was that they could maybe go after Clint Frazier from the Yankees, who they traded to them for Andrew Miller.
Right. Yep. And I think you're just one or two players from, I mean, Cleveland's still a good team, still a quality team. You're in a pretty poor division, which means you're going to play a lot of Detroit, and you're going to play a lot of Chicago White Sox. So those will probably be 2 or 3 wins, right? 2 or 3, as long as you keep.
Yeah, essentially, you should be the 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 for each of them.
Right, you should win each of those series, right, throughout the rest of the season, and you start to catch. I mean, I don't think I still don't believe in Oakland. I think they just got lucky so far. I don't believe in them, and I could be wrong. It only happens once a year, but maybe this is my once a year that I'm wrong. But yeah, it's I don't think they're going to make the wild card. I still don't think they're going to make the wild card. They might make some moves, but I still don't think they have the oomph to put it over the top. I think there's better teams out there. I think Tampa Bay's a better team. I think Cleveland's a better team. I even think Boston's a better team than Oakland. And if you got those 4 teams, Cleveland, Tampa Bay, Boston, and Oakland, which most people do, which one of those, which 2 of those teams are out? 2 of them's got to be out. At this point, I would put Oakland out and Boston, but Boston could still end up doing some stuff for the trade deadline, and who knows. So yeah, I still think Cleveland's got a shot at it. Whether it's a wild card, I still think at this point you might as well go for it. We talked to in the our preseason episode about whether Cleveland spends the money or not spends the resources, either money or players and all that, to try and get, go for it, like some teams out there. And I think, this might be the last year that they can go for it.
Especially, well, then, there's the Lindor thing that looms over, and then Corey Kluber, and then is Jose Ramirez going to be a 220 hitter for the rest of his career until his contract runs out? I mean, that's been ridiculous.
Well, they're all these big time contracts. I haven't seen one of them pan out. Not a single one.
No,
I mean, when the owners are going to get smart and stop doing it, the Harper deal and the Machado deal and all these big time, look at me and pay me $200 to $300 to $400 million. I don't think it's going to work out. Even the Mike Trout deal, I think in the long run, when that contract's over, is he going to bring them any championships? To be determined, right? To be determined. But I think in the long run, the money they paid for him, they could have brought in other players and other resources.
Well, I mean, it's who do you want to build the team around? I mean, it's essentially, is he a great player, Trout? Yes, but there's got to be a point where you say, hey, we got to build up some of these other guys. If he gets hurt, who do they have like La Stella? If he doesn't, hit for them, they're not even close.
Right. And the big contract that lured Pujols away from the Cardinals. How's that work out? How many championships did he bring Los Angeles so far? Pujols deal, none. I mean, he's been a great player. He's done everything, but I mean, you have to, as any sport out there, right? Of any sport out there, hockey, baseball. We just talked about in the beginning of our episode, right? The best players only come up once every 3 innings, or maybe 2 innings if you get a bunch of hits and some walks and stuff like that. They're not up every inning, right? So you have to have players that are up every inning to make an impact. If you put all your eggs in one basket, he's only coming up once every 3 innings or every 2.5 innings or whatever the situation is. You have to have 4 to 5 really good core players.
So that way you're not
Boston last year, if you looked at Boston, right? Did they just have one superstar and the rest were a bunch of schlups? No. So I think you have to have 4 or 5, or more. You have to have, average players. You have to have 3 or 4 above average players and then 2 or 3 elite players to make a good team, is what I'm saying. You can't have one elite player and a couple other guys. You have to have more. You just have to. There's just too much. One player can't do it all. Like basketball, you can have one dude on your team and he can be everything. The other 4 can be schlups.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything I can follow with that. That's well put.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, let's talk about your channel. Let's talk about your channel for a little while. So, obviously, TRIBEFAN879, and you just completed. So, congratulations to you. And also, not to be outdone, and I don't want to take the focus away from you, but Rob Explanation Point just completed a project as well. And anybody that completes a full season replay, 162 games, right? 162 games, that is a major accomplishment that deserves recognition. So kudos to Rob Explanation Point, and kudos to you as well, as you just completed one. Why don't you tell everyone that might not be familiar with your channel and what you had completed? Why don't you give us a little overview of it?
Okay, so essentially, my channel, the last project I did, I play Stratomatic Baseball, and I just completed the 2016 Minnesota Twins replay. Now, for usually, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to do, and it's easier to give love to all the good teams. So I've always picked the last place teams. Now, I got lucky with one of my replays, the 67 Mets, that was Tom Seaver's rookie year. So that was something to kind of look forward to. Well, the Twins didn't exactly have that, but I guess now looking back on it, you can sort of see the younger players like Max Kepler and Eddie Rosario, and some of the pitchers like Taylor Rogers, who's now the closer. And granted, I think only Gibson and Barrios are the 2 that are still left. I think they moved Duffy to the bullpen, which was, in my opinion, a smart move. But you can sort of see now who these Twins players are.
And it's taken a couple years for them to blossom because you played the 2016 season.
Right. And to me, it was a smart move to get rid of Dozier because, I mean, I'll kind of go into his stats. He had 42 home runs, but he had 36 home runs in like 105 days. They kind of went over it. I looked up some of the year-end stuff for the Twins of that year. That was a fluke. And I think in the years after, it's shown it was a fluke.
So what made you, there's lots of last place teams. So what made you choose Minnesota?
Partially because it was, I think one of the things when I came on to the preview show was I got to play the Indians 19 times. I essentially bought the 2016 strat set to play the Indians. And I'm like, well, I haven't played any of the Indians games at all. I mean, I did the Kluber replay, so that was about my only, usage. But it's like, hey, let's play the Indians 19 times. And, I mean, there's always kind of good gems that you can pick out, like Kurt Suzuki, throwing base runners out that he has no business throwing out, or, getting some clutch hits, or, their backup catcher hitting a 2-run homer off of Justin Verlander.
Right.
So, I mean, a lot of it's, you got to pick the kind of, and I have no interest. So it's like, if they lose, okay, yeah, and I don't have a vested interest. So it's like, although I don't know if I'll do the 2018 Baltimore Orioles. They're just, I mean, after Machado leaves, it's not really worth doing.
Well, okay. So you decided on Minnesota,
Mm-hmm.
and so how did it go compared to what you thought was going to be the outcome? Was it exactly what you thought? They underperformed, they overperformed as a team, and then if you want to talk about individuals as well.
As a team, they kept it competitive. I mean, yes, they lost games, and a lot of it was their bullpen. Or they'd be 5-0 down and score 3 runs to at least make it look good. So, I mean, yeah, they went 63 and 99, which was 4 games over their real total. So I was fine with that, And plus, they didn't hit as many home runs, but I was more enjoyable, in my opinion, doing the Twins replays. I thought they fought harder than the 67 Mets did.
Okay, so before the Twins, you did the Mets replay
And the 71 Indians.
and the 71 Indians. So after you get done with the 71 Indians, you're like, okay, I don't want to play the Indians 2016 Indians. I want to play somebody else. So you decided on Minnesota.
Right. Well, I had the 71 set first, and that's how I did the Indians. And then I won the 67 set from Phantomatic.
And how long did it take you to complete 162 games? It didn't seem like it was very long at all.
Well, the last 2 weeks, I kind of threw it into hyperdrive because I was off of work. And I think I put out like 12 videos in a week and a half. So I finished that up. It was a little over 6 months.
Okay.
So I
That's
think
not bad. I mean, basically you played the season in a season, 6-month season for baseball.
right. And essentially it's, like I said, I have the trivia and, working. It's, essentially the weekends are, if you want to play like 3 games, this was like, I knew one of the things I wanted to get done when I was off of work was I have to get this done. I don't, anything that takes longer than like, I'd say half a year kind of is like, okay, got to get this done. Especially when you hit September in a replay, it's like, oh, I can see that finish line. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It was like once you got to September, it's like, okay, there's only like 30 more. We can do this. We can do this. And I was getting burned out.
And it wasn't so bad that I was playing advanced.
So let's talk about you playing with Stratomatic. So, and all your replays you've done with Stratomatic.
Mm-hmm.
That you realize there is other baseball systems out there.
Yes, I do.
Okay. But you choose Stratomatic. Did you watch my video review of my top 16 baseball games?
I did. And to be completely honest with you, if 2019, and now I have not bought every season. I did not buy 2017 because I did not think there was anything, replayable or anything like that. Now, if the Twins end up making like the LCS and, you guys kind of pressure me into doing that, I might take a look at payoff pitch more than I would, Stratomatic. Partially because I think with what you said that the extra players, I mean, I could probably I have to definitely get a computer if I want to do that because I know you have to print them off via PDF.
Yeah, I mean, he offers them as a PDF free download, or you can spend an extra $10 and get them printed out for you. And that's for like, I think 200 and some odd players is from from the season that I ordered. It was $10, and it was all the extra players. And I mean, we're talking players. I think I showed you guys some of the things when we were doing the review. We got like one at bat, one inning pitched, things. I mean, you get everyone. If you want everyone, you get everyone. Now, you don't necessarily need, all those fringe players if you don't want to, but the option is there. And the season cost is around $42. Throw in another $10 if you get the extra, or like you said, you download the free PDF, and then you can just have those fringe players up on your computer screen, and you can just reference the card on your computer screen or your tablet or whatever.
Which I think would probably be the best way for some of us to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, there are lots of other baseballs. I'm just curious to find out why Stratomatic. And there's nothing wrong with it. Okay,
you're right. There is.
It was ranked number
I think
6
part of it was
in my in my review. Spoiler alert: it was ranked 6. But what do you like about it? What functionality? What drives you to use Stratomatic? Just because you have the cards? If you had cards for a different system, would you use a different system, or is it no? I'm just going to stay with this.
Well, I think a lot of it was that a buddy of mine had Stratomatic, so it was kind of the one that I got introduced to. And okay, so there were different sets, and it was okay, and then it's kind of get to the breaking point, where it's like I kind of need to branch out. There with the replay baseball, I kind of saw, like, I really don't want to do that much math, when I want to do a baseball game. Now, I did love the payoff pitch was a little fun, that you had ball comes from pitcher. Okay, it's in this part, tough, or hey, he missed his pitch. It's in the guy's wheelhouse. Now, there's also been kind of other things, like you said, about he's like a one inning guy, he's going to have one result for his card. And, I mean, you're in a rock and a hard place with some of them, though.
Yeah, the hard pitchers for me seem really, really hard. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are all tough, which means you got to roll really, really low or really, really high, and you got to do that multiple times, because even if you roll really, really low, you might get a walk. Well, that doesn't score your run. You need to get a couple, a double, a single here, a double there. You get a run, just a couple runs, and then you have your, B plus or B pitcher or B plus pitcher. And you're, before you know it, you're down 5-0. You're like, I got no shot at this. I got no shot because they're just so tough. That would be my biggest complaint about the system is if you're rolling lots of 6s, 7s, and 8s, you're not rolling, you can always roll 2, 12, 2, 12. There's a possibility you can do that. It's just going to happen. It's going to be really rare.
The probability will say not a chance.
Probability says you're not going to do that very often, right? So you just need to have that happen when you're facing the really, really tough pitchers. And you need to have it happen when your guys are up, not when the other team's up. If I roll a 2 when the other team's up, I know I'm probably not going to roll it when I'm up. So, I mean, it's probably all based on stats. I just think the tough pitchers, you just get this feeling like it's just out. You don't have much of a chance. But I mean, that could just be from my experience or whatever. But
yeah, the other thing is it's like I only have so much time, and I don't want to get like 5 games, and then like they're all gonna sit. Like I feel like I have to play them. Like the 1 game a year is just enough. I take 6 months to do a regular season replay. I might take a month or 2 if I do a pitcher replay, and then it's another 6 months. And then by that time, it's, time to see what new game comes out.
Yeah. And like Tom said, hey, Captain Carl, how you doing? And Tom Usher, guys, thanks for coming out. Tom says, and the mediocre and bad pitchers give up way too many home runs and easy results. So I guess that's where my you got these extremes. You got the really tough pitchers are really hard, and the really bad pitchers are really easy. And what I would have liked is just to put these guys a little bit more towards the middle. Make the tough guys not as tough, and the easy guys don't make them quite as easy.
Well,
To
could there
kind
be
of balance.
something where maybe you have, like, say he could be like a say a 6 or an 8 could be he's like tough against lefties, but another result for against righties.
No,
Maybe that's something they
because
come up with.
the pitcher doesn't have lefty righty splits. It's just the
But
batter.
like if he's like a medium, like maybe one number out of the 12 or out of the
Right. I mean,
10.
I've got really good pitchers that on their 7 or 8 have give up a ballpark, which is either an in play or a wheelhouse, depending on what you roll. So every time they got like really good results in the 5, 6, 7, 9, and 10. So as long as I don't roll an 8, I'm good. But when I roll an 8, then I'm probably going to be giving up a hit. And that's what I'm talking about. That seems more fair.
Yeah.
Because even though the guy's really tough, you still got a chance to hit that 8 a couple times because 8's a common number. To
Yeah.
roll a 2 or 3 or 4, a 10, 11, or 12 are really, really hard when you're rolling 2 6-sided dice. And to roll those numbers multiple times, of course, it can be done. It just doesn't happen very often. So I would like to take the tough guys down a little bit and the easy guys up a little bit, just to make things a little easier. But that makes the tough pitchers more mediocre. So do you want mediocre or would you rather have tough? So I mean, just there's lots of other baseball systems out there. I just haven't seen you play anything besides Stratomatic. I don't know if you own any of them.
No, then again, I'm not along into the hobby. I've only got in at the end of 2016.
Oh, okay, 2016. And you just do the baseball on your channel. I haven't seen any hockey or.
I'm almost thinking about getting the play.com, the Ice Blast.
Oh, really? Okay.
Because to me, Stratomatic hockey seems like it's a little fun, but the flow. I mean, you have to get the what you had for the sleeves for some of your players, or somebody else had it. Maybe it was Dave Gardner. To do the line changes, that seems like it's a lot more fun than trying to do. And I understand there's some it's like History Maker baseball for baseball. It's
Right.
like, do you want it to be more kind of fun, or do you want it to be more kind of serious? And look, I understand play is probably not going to have like the 7 or 8 game, the guy that fills in with an injury, but I mean, to play a hockey game and kind of be like, show off pronunciations of like Brady Shea or something like that.
Yeah, sorry, we're having an issue in the chat. So sorry about that, guys. Give me just a second here. All right. I think just.
We got somebody spewing something, or
Oh yeah, they think they're funny, and then I clicked on the wrong button, so I think I just hit everyone's chat. So if anyone's out there, please try to chat type something in the chat so I know whether or not the chat. I think I just disabled all chat, so we might not have anybody to chat with the rest of the night, unfortunately. Because I was going to ask anyone if they had any questions for you, since we're going to start winding down here. So so you had a great project. For those of you that haven't looked at it yet, what I really find interesting about that is we have a lot of sports simmers in our community. We don't have a lot of time to watch everyone's videos out there. I try to stop in and watch what I can when I get a chance. But if I watched your videos and watched everyone else's videos, I wouldn't have any time to do anything myself. So what I liked what you did, and maybe you can tell us how you came up with this idea, and I've been even toying with how to use this idea for myself, is you came up with this week in Twins, this week in Twins baseball, and basically what you do in that time is all the games that you run offline, you highlight them and tell everyone what had happened in those games in a 10 or 15-minute period where you talk about 4 or 5 games. And so it lets everyone catch up with the games that you don't actually broadcast live. So where'd you come up with that idea? It's a great idea. Awesome. I can spend 10, 15 minutes. I can find out about all 5 games that I missed, and then I can catch your one game that you do live, that you upload. So why don't you go over how that all came about and let us know, because I think it's a great idea.
Well, it's kind of started with a suggestion from Jerry Ball. I had a Steve Blass versus Tom Seaver game that he wanted to know how it ended up. So I'm like, all right, I can do this. And of course, I made the rookie mistake of holding the phone straight up and down so you get the black bars on the side. And then I'm like, well, okay, maybe I can. And then I'm again, well, I don't really think I can do the full games like everybody does. Well, maybe I can just, do recaps. And so it ended up being like the last month, maybe 2 of the 67 series, the season that I did for the Mets. And then I'm like, now I think part of the Twins one, I started doing recaps before I started doing the single season videos. I'm like, I need a snazzier name for this rather than just saying, oh, these are recap. I know, let's do a play on This Week in Baseball and use, instead of this, say Twins Week in Baseball. So just to kind of say, all right, this is what happened for the games that you didn't see, or in case you really want to follow all 162 games and kind of see how I did, And then finally, it took me about, oh god, like 10 games to try to figure out. I was doing stuff on my kitchen table. I had the camera on the left side, and then I think what ended up working out is having the camera on the right side so that my hand didn't cover up the lineup with me being left-handed.
Yeah, so I did notice you had several different setups, but you finally decided on one that really worked out well. And sometimes it takes some, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times to try different setups to figure out what you like and what you don't like, and what works well, what doesn't work well. And it seemed like you nailed it there afterwards.
Well, plus I think, and also I think my play-by-play got a little better and I think what helped was not calling the dice out. To me,
I was just, that's one of the things I was going to talk about. Is one of the very unique things that you do, and I can't do it, and a lot of the other sports simmers out there, we, we're number guys, and I have a really bad memory where I'm looking at a card, I'm also looking at the chat and stuff, and I got to try and remember what was rolled, look at the card, and find the results. You don't do any of that.
And it saved me about.
How did that even come by? How did that even come by? I don't even know how you can do that.
Actually, Sports Time Machine kind of came up with the idea of, well, why don't you call it like you would a radio broadcast? And I'm like, well, it's a little harder when it's the catcher X because you don't know if it's a pop-up, if it's a wild pitch, if it's a dribbler out in front of the plate. So if you see me kind of pause a little bit for some of the X chances, I have to know, okay, is it like where it was hit right at him? Was he like, going, ranging one way or the other? So you can kind of notice when the X chances are when there's a little bit more of a pause. But a lot of them, it's like, okay, it's going here and makes the play. I mean, it's not like part of them you can't really, I mean, you can see the cards, but it's like the non-bolded ones don't really show up all that well. I mean, you can tell that they're outs, but,
Well, I mean, the other thing is, I mean, I haven't played that much, and I'm trying to do my Stratomatic Live now, and it seems like it takes about an hour, maybe longer if there's a lot of players coming in and out. I do keep track on the computer, so it does take me some time to do that. But man, you fly through these games like as soon as the dice hit the table, you know what the results are, and that's of course you have to look up the results, right? I mean, For me, I have to go 5-5. He's a right-hander. 5-6 right-hander. 5-6. It takes me like 10 seconds. You like, bam, you know right where to look, and you know what that result is like that. How did you do that? Is it just repetitive doing it, or
Well,
do
I
you have
think
some kind of trick you can share with me?
well, number one, I only have one team, the batting team with the opposition pitcher. I don't have all the cards sitting right there. So I kind of have only one place to look. And the pitcher's card is always on top. So that I kind of know, hey, if it's the higher number, look up. I think that's part of it. And, you know, I guess maybe because the advanced game's a lot easier. I don't have to worry about the clutch chance. I don't have to worry about the ballpark singles and ballpark home runs. It's whatever's on the card, that's what gets called.
All right, so let's
Now,
talk about, you got basic, you got advanced, you got super advanced with Stratomatic. You chose to go with mid-tier advanced. Do you think that is kind of the sweet spot, or do you use any of the super advanced rules, incorporate any of that in, or do you think they're, because of the speed that you can get it done, it's better to do just the advanced?
well, the only reason I did advanced for the Twins was I did the Mets for 162 games and then did Vita Blue for 39 games. So that's 200 games of super advanced. And by the time I was done with the blue replay, I got tired of rolling that extra D20 to determine if it was a wild pitch. So I think if you're recording, advanced is great. And granted, I had some 50-minute games because they went extra or there was a lot of scoring. And I had to put up in two parts because my phone only allows for like 44 minutes for, Now, if I was doing live streaming, maybe I would, I could take that extra time of, or unless I get something going really quick where I go, all right, I'm rolling the 3D6s and the D20, and if the D20 doesn't have to do with a split chance, that's your X chance roll. And then throw another D20 if you want to do the pass ball, or I don't know how I'd work in stealing. I'd have to kind of tweak some things before maybe I start doing super advanced for live games to try to get them in under like 50 minutes. Seems a little kind of ambitious to try to finish a super advanced game.
Yeah, I think you get these games done, and on average, like you said, sometimes you go extra innings or whatever, in like half hour, which seems really reasonable time to get a game done.
Right, and I'm also not announcing the lineups. I'm saying, well, I'll whenever they come to bat or they make a play in the field, that's how you know who's playing. I give you the starting pitchers.
Right. So, how do you think all in all, how do you think the stats turned out for the season?
Some of them were pretty good. Like, I don't know there's some of them that were pretty good. Like Byron Buxton, I got almost dead on for and I agree with one of the comments when I did the upload of the stats video. RBIs are a very fickle thing. To try to have somebody come up with get the exact number of RBIs or home runs, it's very fickle. The one that I was really surprised with was Eddie Rosario. Now, that might be kind of the precursor of what's happening now. He went 7 homers over. He had 17 in the replay, but only had 10 in the regular season, and had 48 RBIs and only had 32 in the regular season.
Do you think that's because he got rolled on his card a lot, or he got rolled on the pitcher's card a lot, or it's just an anomaly?
I think it was more on his card. I think he might have hit a couple more sweet spots on his card. And the D20 came up lucky for him a few times, I think.
Right.
Miguel Sano, Dozier led the team. I had his 6 RBI game that he had, the third to last game of the year, got him to within 1 RBI of his total, which I don't mind if you're under home runs, but if you're at least delivering one, I think you can at least get that number or close to that number for RBIs. It was kind of frustrating for I don't think anybody really. Well, Kurt Suzuki had about 10 under his total, but I wasn't really depending on him getting 40 RBIs as a, the catchers to me are like, if you're depending on them to get 50 or 60 RBIs, the rest of your offense is probably suffering.
Yeah. So in all, you think the stats, I mean, as long as you're in, say, 10 percentile, I think that's fine. So, like, if you had 40 home runs and you're off either 4 or 5, one way or the other, which is about 10%, I mean, would you agree that's kind of a good take on where you should be?
I think that's about right, yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously, guys that only had 10 home runs, you're talking about a 1 or 2 difference being 10%, or,
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have some anomalies because the dice do that crazy stuff. Is there any game of the 162 that you remember, like a great comeback or a disastrous defeat, or one of those games that was back and forth the whole game? Was there like one or two games that stand out as if we were going to say to someone, hey, don't go watch all 162 games, but go watch these two because they're really, really good. Which two would you kind of pick out?
Well, there was one, I think, that happened in the first month of the season, and I didn't realize that it actually happened until I actually did the compiling. Eddie Rosario hit for the cycle.
Oh, wow. That was going to be my next question, was actually, did you have any, spectacular, cycles or no-hitters or anything like that?
Nolasco, I think, had a complete game 2-hitter one time. That was probably there were a few where the Twins kind of had some like 10-0 games. Wow. I'm sure there's a few, like, don't watch the 19-0 game that I had against the Blue Jays. That was all types of awful. I think there was a 1-0 Yankees game that I did that both teams, it was a great pitchers duel. That might be one that if I say, hey, if you want to really see kind of, plus it was later on when I kind of got the hang of the, play-by-play.
Right. It was a great series. I really enjoy it. So, do you have any ideas about like what you're going to do coming up? Any other projects you're thinking about? I mean, you don't have to tell us right now, like, this is what I'm doing, but I mean, is there anything floating out there that you're like, hey, I might want to try this?
I'm the reason, kind of part of the reason I bought the 2018 set was Snell, DeGrom, and Scherzer were three of the big, pitchers. Now the problem is I saw Demos tried one, and I think somebody else may have tried to do the DeGrom replay. After about 5 games, when they realized the Twins don't hit anything, they gave up. So I think he's out. I may do Snell because I don't want to do the Rays full season because I don't like the opener strategy. It would make a very hard replay.
Rays, yeah.
Now, the other thing that I was thinking of doing.
You don't want to try that just to see how that affects everything? I think that would be like super interesting to try.
But
you're not doing 162 games, right? You're just doing the 30 or 35 he started. So you don't have to commit big time to it. But it also gives you a chance to see, hey, maybe this is going to work.
And who knows? Maybe that could. Like I said, I'm not really sure my full season. Maybe that could be my full season just to kind of see how that works. My number one, the kind of 1 and 1A of my next full season is either the 2018 Rockies or the 1967 Indians, who were not terrible that year and had Sonny Siebert, Louis Tiant, and I think Sam McDowell might have been that team. If not, there was one other really good pitcher on that team. They pitched well, didn't hit that great, but the win-loss record was at least passable.
Yeah. So I've talked with Tabletop Earl. We did a live chat with him because he did a Phillies replay, and it didn't go well for him. He had almost a mental breakdown. How do you handle when your beloved Indians? I'm doing the same thing with my Cardinals. and it's been great so far. But I am like 22-8 or something really, really good. If I was 8-22, I might not feel this way. So how do you handle it when your beloved team, your Indians, they're going really good this season, and you start tanking? How does that affect you? Are you okay with that? Can you handle that? Are you like Tabletop Earl? And again, nothing against Tabletop Earl. We love Tabletop Earl. It just he almost had a complete breakdown because his Phillies were not doing what they needed to do, and he was having some problems with people coming in and doing live streams with them. And how do you feel about that?
Well, I think I have a bit of an advantage for taping the game so that I don't have the chatter coming back and forth of, hey, go this team or hey, go that team. But I think I think the closest thing I have is every time the Twins bullpen blew a lead, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah,
Especially
that's
on
like
these
your
saves
famous
that
comment. I laugh every time I hear that because it's like, you've got to be kidding me. And I said, oh my God, I start laughing every time. I know exactly what's coming.
I mean, it's like Kinsler. Granted, the Twins bullpen wasn't that great. Kinsler was the best of the best that they had because they got rid of Kevin Jepson, who was their early season closer. If they would have been smart, it would either been Taylor Rogers or Ryan Presley. But hey, they went with Kinsler. I mean, Rogers to me, and I will say this: the other thing I wish I had done, and I ended up doing it later in the season, especially with the September call-ups, is who actually pitched in the game. I mean, at a point you can still use it, but if you're getting blown out, you throw all that out the window. But if you've got your guy that pitches 5 innings, I'm like, hey, these should be your kind of. And plus, with the fact that I've got so many pitchers, I'm like, how do I pick?
Yeah, yeah. So you didn't limit your pitchers, like once they reach their threshold, I can't pitch them anymore or anything like that.
I kind of used the super advanced rule where I didn't pitch them more than 2 games in a row.
Right. Okay. All right. That's. I guess that's fair. That's the easy way to do it because you weren't compiling stats as you went along.
No, and that's the one thing I think that also kind of speeds the replay up. Like the home runs and RBI stats, I write down like if they had a home run and how many RBIs, and then I kind of keep a little running total. And maybe the next one I do, maybe I'll do a better job of writing all the pitching stats down. So that way, if I do need to compile them, it's going to be a lot easier. Like I didn't do any of it, and like that's what's taking so long if I want to compile all the pitcher stats. Plus, I've got 6, 7 starters and like 6 or 7 relievers to do.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
count up all the thirds or 2/3 of an inning or inning and a thirds, and it's like that's one of the times I still wish I had a computer so that way, or something that I could do a math formula on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I keep as I play the game, I input it right into Stride because I know if I don't do it while I'm playing the game, I'm not gonna, I'll be like, oh, I'll just input it in later, and it'll sit here, and then I'll play the next game, and pretty soon I'll have a stack of them, and I'll be like, oh, I'll wait till I get 5 or 10, then I'll input them all, and I'll never do it, right? And then so I'm like, unless I do it right now, I'm never gonna do it. So I have to spend the time doing it, and Stratomatic is awful to enter into, your dice rolls into, when you've got 2 runners on or, 2 runners on or worse, you got 3 runners on and you hit it into a double play that ends the inning. You have to tell what each one of the runners are doing. Then you have to tell who gets the ball and who the ball goes to and probably the last out. It's like 6 steps just to get a 6-4-3 double play or 4-5-4-3 or whatever it ends up being. It's a
It
pain in
almost
the
makes
ass.
it almost makes it feel like using 81 sheets of paper would be worth it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just gonna say, I just want my record at the end of the year, and then maybe compile a couple of your players that you like at the end of the season, that's pen and paper is the way to go. So that way you're not wasting time. I think I can go a lot faster if I wasn't doing that because the strikeout just isn't a strikeout. It's a strikeout to the catcher. Why is it that way? Now, Replay baseball has a beautiful interface. Beautiful. So, like, if I had that same situation, I have 3 runners on, and I hit into a double play, I just click the button that says 6-4-3. Boom, 1 click, and I'm done.
Oh,
It's
that's
it's
nice.
it's very sweet. Unfortunately, I'm not smart enough to actually replay any of these seasons that they actually have. Because they don't have all the seasons. So I was doing 1995 for the Seattle. I was doing the 1992 as a Pittsburgh, and I was doing the 1986 season with Napa, thinking I would use replay baseball. Well, unfortunately, none of these seasons are available in Napa, which really sucks. That I have to use Stratomatic, which takes twice as long to enter.
Yeah, then you don't want to have to do your own little Excel sheet, trying to round
Yeah,
certain
yeah,
digits.
yeah. That's just a lot of extra work that I don't need to do. All right. So yeah, we're going to wrap things up here. We want to appreciate. I had to turn the chat off. I think I accidentally turned the chat off on everyone when I went to turn it off on one of our unscrupules. So I want to apologize for you guys out there that are came by and was wanting to chat with us and ask questions for TriFan. So I apologize. That's my fault for that. I do take full credit for that. So unfortunately, I was trying to turn off the chat on one person. I think it ended up turning it off on everyone. So we haven't had any chat. So I won't be able to ask you, any questions from our wonderful audience out there. But I want to thank you for coming out tonight and talking with us. We found out a lot about you, and just I like to get the general feel on your thoughts, your likes, your dislikes. Just chat. I could tell you didn't even need to tell me that you're a trivia guy because you seem very knowledgeable. And every time I've talked with you, you always seem to know everything about everything. So that's that shows because you're a trivia guy. You know something about everything. So last question I got for you tonight. You know what it is? DH, no DH.
Mm. Well, that's a tough question for me because for me as one person, look, as a pitcher, you came up hitting all throughout, as I think I mentioned in the video that opened. You hit, and as a kid, was the one thing you wanted to do when you played baseball? Hit. Now, I don't like the fact that, hey, let's just specialize them to be pitchers. Like, what kind of fun is that to only hit once every 5 days? I'd rather be a backup position player. So, I mean, and look, I've seen great moments with pitchers hitting, like even the Indians, like CC Sabathia, had a couple of home runs when he was with the Indians. To me, it speeds up the game a lot more. Essentially, if you've got a bad hitting pitcher, you're shortening the game to 8 innings.
Yeah.
So
3 times he comes up.
Yeah. I mean, and would the DH save a whole bunch of careers? Well, you could also say those old players learn how to pinch hit. Like Rusty Staub extended his career 4 years because he could hit, once a game.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Go ahead.
I mean, for being an American League guy my whole life, look, you're going to confuse some people if you try to explain the double switch.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, to kind of keep it consistent from what you've had coming up through the ranks. If the American League tomorrow said starting in 2021 we're getting rid of the DH, I'm all for it.
And if
I just
National League, if baseball said in 2021 the National League is going to the DH, you're okay with that too?
I am. The other thing that I would say is maybe I'd let the National League maybe expand the rosters a little bit because you don't have that one player that just hits.
Yeah. Do you think it gives an advantage in a World Series to either the National League or the American League that the American League has the DH?
Slightly, because your first player off the bench for the National League is probably not a designated hitter.
Right.
So
But
where
the American League pitchers haven't had to bat all season, though.
off and on, but I see your point. It's not, and most of them couldn't drop down a bunt to save their life, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I you know, I listen to the DH guys out there. I listen, and I I just wish baseball would solidify the rules to make it fair one way or the other. If they go with the DH, then go with the DH. I don't think that's the answer, but I think both sides need to be equal. I think for my personal thought is the DH gives the American League a big advantage, not just a little advantage, a big advantage, because extra hitting is always better than not being able to hit. You look at teams in the baseball regular season, the teams that underperform are the teams that didn't hit. So getting that extra hitter, right? Somebody that's used to being a DH and hitting all the time is an advantage. So that's my personal opinion. I think they could fix this situation one way or the other, but I think it should be, just make a decision and make it equal, so everyone's playing an equal field. Because I think right now it's an imbalance, which I don't like. I don't like the imbalance. I just think they should fix it all, one way or the other, and be done with it.
I hear you. Yeah, I agree. It's 46 or 30 or 46 years. It's been long enough.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other rules that things like expanding the rosters to 40 man in September. I mean, if they want to do that, they should still require each team say you can have 40 players, but you can only field 25 of those. You need to decide those 25 players before the game starts. You can have
Yes.
100 players in your dugout. We don't care, but you can still only come up with 25. Or I would, even say starting September 1st, instead of 25-man roster, you go to a 26-man roster. So that way, those teams that are looking at players that have that extra spot to try out players in the minor leagues to see if they want to bring them up next year and, do all that stuff. So instead of 25, maybe go to 26. I would go 26 the whole year. I think having that 26-man would stop a lot of this nonsense with the, putting the man on the 10-day disabled list because he's got a sore thumb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the other thing is, or you can even have at the beginning of, have like even tier it up, like 26 to start, and then maybe 28 in mid, and then maybe the last week of the season you could go 30. I agree. You can have a 40-man roster, but you can only dress so many. I like that as a whole.
Yeah, I think, bring 100 guys in, doesn't matter, but you can only, at the start of the game, you got to turn in a sheet that says, "Here's my 26 players. These are the only guys that can play." Boom, you're done.
Yep.
And you take care of this ridiculousness. This could be a whole night discussion, and you are always welcome to come back. We got our, every end of the month. If you want to come back and talk about July, we're going to talk about obviously the all the free agents or trade deadline signings and everything. So beginning of August, we'll talk about July. You are always welcome to come back. You're very knowledgeable. We love to have you back anytime.
I would love to come back.
Alrighty, guys. Well, that 2 hours went by. I looked down at my clock thinking, well, it's about 9 o'clock, and it was like, wow, it's 10 o'clock already. Wow, holy cow. That goes by fast, I'm telling you. And it's a good time talking with you. I do appreciate it. I appreciate all of our chat that came out as well. So big shout out to everyone that came. Unfortunately, like I said, my fault. I had to turn it off, so we don't get any questions from the audience today. But next time TribeCan comes back on, you can always ask them then. So big shout out and thank you. Things coming up in the near future. Anything you want to announce or talk about for your channel? Or are you just kind of in a waiting, holding pattern right now?
I think I'm in a holding pattern right now. I mean, I kind of went and did a lot in a short period of time, and I kind of need to decompress a little bit. I mean,
Yeah, I
who
agree. I
knows?
mean, there's times where I just want to get away from it, 2-3 days or a week or whatever, and just get away and not have to deal with it, and then come back and you're a lot more excited about it than every day. Oh my God, I gotta, all day at work, I gotta sit there and go, oh my God, I got another game tonight. When am I going to squeeze that in?
Right.
But it's good when you announce. Be sure to do a video and announce it. Keep up the this week in blank baseball, whatever the team is or the player. I think that's a great idea. I think, as we talked about, as our community keeps expanding, there's more players, there's more videos, there's more teams, and it's hard to keep track of when everyone posts a video every single day on their team, what had happened. So this week in Twins baseball is a great thing. It's great. I think a lot of players should think about it. I know David from Baseball Demos uses that to kind of keep us up on the games he doesn't broadcast live, and I think it's that way I don't have to sit down and watch every one of your games to keep track of what's going on. So I think it's a wonderful idea and a great addition. So I'm 2 thumbs up for that. So yeah, I think we talked about everything that I wanted to talk about, and I want to thank you very much for coming out. And we'll see you hopefully either in our next baseball preview show or at the end of the season or whenever you can make it. Just come on back out.
And who knows? Maybe I'll even do a preseason hockey prediction video. Who knows?
Oh, now there's a great idea. We can get you and me and Dave Gardner and Retro Sports Network. We can talk preseason hockey and pick our hockey picks for the year. That's a great idea. I didn't even think about that.
All right.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thanks, Tribe Fan. We will see everyone in the next episode. Till then, take care.